Today marks the midway point for the governor. After taking the oath in Tallahassee, Governor Ron DeSantis, a former congressman, came into office with little executive experience and the backing of President Trump.
Tonight, Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders looks at how his administration weathered an unprecedented first 2 years.
Sail on, O ship of state, for the future of Florida is strong and great.
DeSantis ended his inaugural address with those words and in his 2 years achieved teacher raises, cleaner water, and legalization of smokable medical marijuana.
He really surprised a lot of people on the left, I think, in terms of how he governed.
Political scientist Carol Weissert says his early nonpartisan focus helped him nab a solid approval rating. Florida Atlantic marking him at 54% approval to 19% disapproval in March of his first year.
He was one of the most popular governors in the country, and in part because he came off an election in which he was really pro-Trump, but then he really turned to state issues.
Well, good afternoon.
But 12 months later, COVID started sweeping across the state. DeSantis initially locked down much of the economy to ease the spread on April 1st.
There's not going to be any kind of return to normalcy.
Deaths and cases climbed in the following weeks, tourism dried up, and the state's unemployment system failed. The governor's approval dropping 42% to 46% by October.
When COVID hit, this has been really hard on all governors and across the states.
Weissert doesn't place the shift on any one policy from the governor, instead suggesting the public saw him differently as the virus became politicized.
Mandates, lockdowns, fines. We're just not doing that. They are not effective. Let me tell you that right now.
As public perception changed, so too did the governor's way of communicating, says political expert Josh Scacco.
More prepared, more rehearsed, more pre-released and pre-packaged messaging.
Scacco says that heightened control is common for all leaders entering the latter portion of their term. Reduced transparency, adversarial relationships with journalists, and video drops instead of news conferences are a form of political preservation, especially if re-election's on the line.
And the longer they're in office and face criticism for their performance, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, they realize that the transparency, the openness, the accountability might not necessarily be always possible.
Just what DeSantis' next 2 years will look like is an unknown. He has a bumpy vaccine rollout to flatten, an economy to rebuild, and an unpredictable president as a future constituent, far from the smooth sailing he once predicted. At the Capitol, Forrest Saunders, WPTV News Channel 5.
DeSantis has suggested he plans to run for re-election, telling Fox News this week he expects to be the 2022 nominee. Pundits believe the governor could become a frontrunner for a GOP presidential nominee 4 years from now.